Alright guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another kind of out and about video. For this one we are still in Gothenburg, and behind me is Spike Brewery, which is a brewery that I only encountered, maybe about a year or so ago, but I've been really impressed with the IPAs that these guys have been putting out, and it turned out that it was very close to my hotel here in Gothenburg, so I thought, why not come and have a little look around and check out. So we'll do our usual, we'll go in, have a little look around, do some beer tastings, and we'll see how we get on. So hopefully this is another good one. Cheers! Alright, so here we are, just on the outside of the brewery. Make sure when you come here that you look for the number 10, because I got a bit confused when I came here because it wasn't marked all that well, but you'll see up here is the Spike Brewery sign, and this symbol's a little bit different. I do like the little kind of cardiac heartbeat thing, but this whole area, this is the Gamlestaden, or part of the Gamlestaden in Gothenburg to the northeast of the main city. This is just like an old kind of industrial area. I actually met David inside, and he was telling me that this used to be a former meat packing factory, but they only open up their brewery on a Saturday at the moment. But when you come in, you'll be greeted by some nice CO2 tanks. And you can see their brew kit here. As soon as you come in, you'll see the nice big kettles and mash tuns and stuff like this. This one, obviously, this is one of these ones that can be kind of moved around and things like that. But this used to be a kind of meat packing factory, this one, from what David was telling me. So they've got their brewing area in one part at the moment. And you can look around here, there's more of their equipment. But this is really cool. They've got their offices and stuff upstairs. You'll come through here. You'll come through this little bit, which they're obviously renovating at the moment, and then you'll come to the bar. So there's two different rooms here. We'll look at those in a little minute. So if you head through here, David kindly gave me permission to go through here. You'll see this is their fermentation area. So they've got all their fermentation tanks in here, and then if you come through here, this is their warehouse where they've got all their kegs and stuff like this, and all of the malts and things too, which is pretty cool. Alright, so just another little look at the bar area then. So there's two different rooms here. You come through here and they've got this nice back room, as you can see. Lots of nice artwork and things like this. This is really quite cool. You can see there's all their kegging system and things in here. Lots of different taps. But yeah, the other room that they have just over here, they've got a little sort of DJ area. Here's my mum and dad waiting patiently for me. But yeah, they've got this little area as well, DJ area, and a little piano that you can play too, which is quite nice. Alright guys, so first little tasting video then. This one is the Reprogram, which is a sour ale. This one apparently has mandarin and guava in it, and the main reason I chose this one was I've never actually had a sour beer from Spike Brewery. Most of the things that I've tried have been IPAs and stuff like this, so I thought, try something different, and this one seemed like it would be really quite interesting, so why not, eh? So let's have as you can see with this one, as you'd kind of expect from a sour beer, quite sort of blonde in its colour, hazy as well. This one I think will be really interesting. The head was up a little bit on it. It was quite a sort of ivory, creamy coloured head, this one. When you go in for a look at the aroma, you can definitely pick up some of that nice sharp tartness that you'd expect. So definitely a little bit of a lemony, kind of citricy thing going on. Philip behind the bar was telling me this is quite a malty beer as well, and I mean, in fairness, you can pick that up with it. It's definitely got a nice little bit of a bready base to it, a little bit of a biscuity kind of caramelly thing going on as well. You can really pick that up in there. The guava, the two fruits in this one are really quite pungent, and you can pick them up you can really pick them up quite nicely in this, I have to say. It's really nice how that goes together. I really like the way that this beer is coming out, to be honest. So a nice little bit of that citricy sharpness forming the baseline. You can get the juiciness and a little bit of the sharpness as well from the tangerines, and some of that kind of guava's quite a difficult one to describe. It comes across as very smooth and a very juicy fruit almost. You can really pick that up as well. I think the tangerines are a bit more pungent along with a lemony citricy note in this one. A little bit of a kind of grassy, maybe floral hoppy quality to it as well. But yeah, an interesting aroma, this one, kind of typical for what you'd expect of a sour beer, but compared to the other Spike beers I've come across before, this one it's a little bit, it's quite sharp, but that's what you want. You want a sour beer to be just that little bit kind of puckering almost. But yeah, So yeah, let's take a look at this one and see how we go on. Let's go. That's really pretty damn good, I have to say. The first thing you're going to notice about this beer is, like Philip had said to me, it is quite malty, and that suits it. It really does, because you get the impression from the aroma this one's going to be really, really sharp, but it actually is very, very well rounded, and that's great. So middle of your palate, you're going to get that nice sort of bready thing, blanket in the middle of your tongue. It comes out a bit more in the aftertaste. This beer becomes very, very smooth actually. It's almost even got a little tiny bit of a vanilla-like flavour to it, a little bit woody almost. But in the middle of your palate you'll get a little kind of bit of biscuit or something too. So bready base, a little bit of a woody kind of infusion in there, and it's almost a little bit vanilla, if you like. I really like that about it, and a little bit of biscuit in the middle of the tongue. Not much of a hoppy presence to this one though. Yeah, I mean, if there's any hops to this, it's just a little bit of grassiness around the edge of the tongue. What you have to remember though with these beers is that when you add fruit into the brew, what it does is it suppresses a little bit of the IBU. So the fruit, when you add it, always comes out around the edge of the tongue rather than the hops, because they come out in the sort of oily part of the beer behind the front curve of the palate too. So this beer comes across as very juicy. It probably does have hops in it, but you're not going to detect them because it's got fruit added into it. But yeah, straight away with this one, behind the front curve of the tongue, you'll get a little bit of that sort of lemony citric thing that you're always going to get from Lactobacillus, Brettanomyces, whatever. But you've got a nice kind of tangerine sharpness to it as well. The guava, I think, the tangerines sort of roll out a little bit more and become more juicy in the aftertaste, but the guava, I think, is far more present in the aftertaste, and it's almost like you have a guava, woody, vanilla sort of thing the further you go into the aftertaste with this beer. But that's a very, very nice example of a sour beer. From, if memory serves me rightly, I've not seen Spike Brewery can and release any of their sour beers through Systembolaget, but that would be a very good candidate to start with actually. You know, thumbs up to them for this. This is a really quite nice sour beer, I have to say, so yeah. Mouthfeel wise, this is one of the thicker sour beers I've come across actually. I'd say that overall this beer is mid-bodied. For a sour beer it's quite full-bodied. Carbonation is very smooth, quite an oily mouthfeel, and you know, it's really nicely done. Nice smooth malts, a little bit of sweetness in there, bit of sharpness. Not the sharpest sour beer you're going to come across right enough, but some really lovely juicy fruits. So a really good beer to start with for my first tasting here at Spike Brewery. 2 more to go. We'll catch you in a second with those. Right, so here's what they've got on tap today. I'm in here on the, if I remember the date correctly, the 2nd of November 2019. So today they've got Private Pills, Reprogram, which is a sour mandarin and guava beer. You'll see me review that in a little bit. His Neighbour's West Coast IPA Classic, which would be quite interesting to try. The Lace lager beer, Aurora Imperial Stout, which you'll see me review in a little minute too. Number 6 is the Rainbow Rider Sour IPA. This one, Get Over Zoomer, which is a sour beer with cocoa, mango and vanilla, which could be really quite interesting. Smart Time, which is a hazy pale ale. Hop AD, which built, I think it's a collaboration beer, a double IPA with triple hops, triple dry hops, and then they've got their classic burger beer at number 10, which is quite cool. So yeah, also in their fridge they've got a few different things here as well, some different Spike breweries. So these are the 3.5 ones, which you can actually buy and take away. Late Bloomer, a little IPA, Pilsner Geist as well, Pilsner Ghost, another IPA, some Rem. There's a few Electric Nurse things too, and Mohawk Brewing, your usual soft drinks and things. The Strictly Business Imperial Ipa, I think I reviewed that for you before. You've got this one over here too, which is very cool artwork. Rainbow Rider, his neighbour called him a regular sort of guy, like a West Coast IPA, and a few other ones that you're not going to see. This one is an Imperial Marzipan Stout, pornographic Hopfenweizen and stuff like this too. But yeah, you know, pretty cool. And I have to say, their little bar area is pretty awesome as well. You can see they've got about 10 or so different taps and things like that. There's the tap list again for you. But you've got Philip over there, who Epic Beard Man from Scotland, Livingston, and Sarah is just through there as well, who is from Sweden. So yeah, really nice little bar area. But let's go back through here and we'll do some tastings. Alright, second little beer tasting then. So this one is the Hop AD. This is a double IPA. It didn't actually say what percentage it was, but knowing where Spike are, it'll probably be like 8%, 8.5, maybe 9 at a push. Triple dry hop this one, so it should be really interesting. But the main reason I picked this one was I didn't recognise the name for this, so obviously it's a different one. And the thing with Spike Brewery is, as I've told you before, I only have ever really tried IPAs from these guys, and if you come to visit their little tap room, you really need to try one of their IPAs. So pick one that you haven't tried before. That's how it goes. But yeah, as you can see with this one, in terms of appearance, it's quite bright, and I would say this one's a bit more of a kind of orangey colour. This one, it's almost a little bit like a kind of peach juice colour, something like that. You can see there's a nice little white head on this one. It's not perfect white, a little bit more kind of creamy and off-white sort of thing. A few bubbles of carbonation visible, but overall it's not surprising in terms of its appearance for what you'd expect. Probably this is a New England style IPA, this one. It definitely looks like it, oats in the malt base and wheat and things like that. So yeah, let's take a look at the aroma and see how we get on. Oh, right, straight away with this beer, you're going to notice the malt base in this straight away. It actually does have a little bit of an almost West Coasty malt base to it, and I've started to notice this with the Gothenburg beers lately. There seems to be, it always started off with a more kind of creamy, oaty sort of thing, but there seems to be a move to bring more of the West Coast character into IPAs up here recently. So straight away with this one, you are going to notice a little bit of brown sugar in here. There's a little bit of a biscuity note, definitely a bit of sweeter caramel as well, and usually you'll get this with the boozy beers. One of the things I've always said about New England IPAs is that they struggle to cover the alcohol when you start to go above 8.5% in a way that you wouldn't get with the West Coast IPAs. So to me, the malt base of this beer comes across as being a little bit more West Coasty, to be honest with you. So yeah, nice bit of a kind of white bready base in there, some sweet caramel, almost a teeny bit toasty, but a little biscuity as well. When you take the aroma in a little bit more deeply though, you can pick out just that little oaty smoothness in there. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's wheat malts, oat malts and a little bit of caramel and biscuit malt and things. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what's making up the malt base here. So the malt base in this one is almost a hybrid of a New England and West Coast IPA rolled into one. So I think this one will be pretty nice actually. Just pay attention to that malt base. It gives you a hell of a lot of depth in a beer actually. But yeah, hoppy side of things then, I'd say that the green side of the hops in this beer are mainly grassy. There's a little bit of floral character in there, but mainly grassy. I get the impression that the hops have been added at a point where it's not going to blow the head off you in terms of bitterness, because it comes across as nice and juicy. The green side of the hops are not overly prominent in the aroma here. But fruity wise, I think we're talking, there's a little bit of a mangoey note to it, a little bit of an orangey kind of thing. There's so many hops out there these days, it's difficult to pick what it is. If it's oranges, it could be a number of things. Amarillo, Sabro, Mosaic, Pacifica, Mandarin of Bavaria, there's a whole host of things that it could be. If it's mangoes, it's most likely to be Citra. It's still quite a popular hop. But yeah, mangoes, a little bit of an orange. I sort of like papaya, apricot-y kind of thing as well too, which is quite nice. So yeah, I mean it's quite, this is quite a nice, it's quite juicy in terms of its fruity qualities, it's grassy in terms of its green hoppy notes, and it's also quite, I'd say that it's also quite sort of just juicy and oily. So yeah, take a bit of time and enjoy the aroma, but let's get stuck into this one. This one is the Hop AD from Spike Brewery here in Gothenburg. Let's go. Yeah, that's an interesting one. This one definitely comes across as being a little bit more West Coasty. Definitely, it's almost like a hybrid actually. It's got the West Coast booziness and the West Coast malt base, but it's a little bit more kind of New England in terms of the way the hops and the fruits come out. It's a low bitterness ABV, it's a low bitterness, a low IBU IPA this one, but this is good. So if you get the chance to try this one, have a go at it. So yeah, middle of the palate then, you're going to get that nice kind of bready base to the beer, it blankets the middle of your tongue. On top of that, you'll start to get a few of the complexities there. That bread really smoothens out and thickens quite nicely the further you go into the aftertaste, but you have got a really nice There's a really nice kind of caramelly, boozy note in the middle of the palate there. It really reminds me of some of these old West Coast double IPAs, Sierra Nevada Torpedo kind of thing. You really get that in the middle of your tongue. As you move out from the centre of your palate, it becomes a little bit more sort of biscuity and things like that. There's almost a little slight hint of a woody undertone to this one, I think, but malt base wise, this one is a very sort of classic West Coast IPA. I really like this actually, so thumbs up to Spike Brewing once again. That's really nice. So, hoppy side of things then. Back corners of the palate, there's a teeny little bit of earthiness there, but not much actually. It's not as strong as you might get from Mosaic sometimes, so that's just a little bit of a kind of undertone of the hops, if you like. But as you come further forward along the sides of your tongue, you'll notice it becomes a little bit more floral. There's a little bit of that dry floral quality on the front corners of the palate. Round the very front curve of the tongue, it's just a little bit lighter and more grassy, I would say. Behind the front curve of the palate, you've got that little oily bubble where the fruity, juicy esters push their way out of the beer. And this is where it's quite interesting actually. There's a few things going on here. But yeah, for me, this one's quite, it's a good bit of orange to it, I think. It's quite, it's a little bit tangerine-y. It's not quite oily and orange, although it does have some of that quality in there. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit of Mosaic that's in here, or even Amarillo. I always like playing guess the hops with these beers, but a nice orangey quality to it. The further you go into the aftertaste, you'll get a little bit of a kind of apricot-y, papaya type thing out of this too, which is nice. There is just a little element of that juicy tropical fruit further forward on the palate there, but mainly it's an orangey IPA, this one. But in terms of how it goes, this is pretty damn nice actually. I think my supposition that I made at the start, where I said it's a West Coast New England hybrid, is right with this. It's got the New England sort of fruitiness to it and bitterness, but it's got the West Coast malt base, and it's a really nice, almost hybrid IPA, this one actually. This one gets a big thumbs up from me. I hope they release this in cans so I can do a sort of sit down review with this later on. But this is very, very nice. So yeah, mouthfeel then. This is quite a full-bodied IPA. Yeah, bottom end of full-bodied. Carbonation's really smooth. The mouthfeel overall is pretty oily, I would say. It's quite yeah, quite a big oily mouthfeel, this one, rather than anything else. In terms of IBUs, I actually think we're talking about 50 IBUs for this beer, maybe 40. It's not going to blow the head off you in terms of that. Like I said, more New England in terms of its bitterness. Nice oily fruity quality and some nice kind of sweet malty qualities to the beer as well, but definitely a little bit boozy. So really nice beer, this one, the Hop AD double IPA here at Spike Brewery. We've got one more tasting and then we'll leave it at that. Cheers. Alright, final beer tasting then here at Spike Brewery. This one is the Aurora, an Imperial Stout. As I said in the other two tastings, Spike Brewery primarily is an IPA brewery, but they've got some sour beers and stuff going on, mainly top fermented beers these guys are doing. So when I saw an IPA, an Imperial Stout rather, not an IPA, when I saw an Imperial Stout, you know, you just have to go for it because it's a style you don't see so often from this brewery. So like I said, this one is called the Aurora. As you'd expect from an Imperial Stout, pretty much, you know, ebony colour. If you put the light through it, you're only getting a little bit of a kind of Coca-Cola coloured edge to the beer. When this beer was poured, it had like a half finger of a almost like mocha coloured head. So, you know, pretty much as you'd expect in terms of appearance from an Imperial Stout. And I'm curious to see whether this is like a sweet Imperial Stout or a Russian Imperial Stout, more roasty toasty, or if it's somewhere kind of in the middle. So, aroma wise, this one's a little bit, it's kind of got a mixture. It's quite almost sharp in its toastiness. It really comes across as being quite roasty, but quite sharp in that aroma actually. So, yeah, good bit of black malt coming out of this one. Not really a coffee smoothness or anything like that. This one is quite, it's really quite a toasty smelling Imperial Stout. If I was betting on this one at the moment, I'd say maybe it's going to be more like a Russian Imperial Stout, this, to be honest. So yeah, mainly a roasty black malt coming out of this one. Not really any brown sugars or anything either, to be honest with you. You can pick out a little bit of a breadiness. It's almost like a roasty bread crust, like a hedgehog roll or something like that. the malt base really in this one is very, very well fired. You're not going to get much out of it in terms of aroma, other than that, to be honest. Hoppy wise, there's a bit of earthiness there, so I wouldn't be surprised if you've got like Kent Goldings or Fugels from England in here. I think it's probably more likely to be, it could even be Bramling's Cross actually, something like that. I'm pretty sure there's a bit of English hop in here. There's probably an American one as well. But yeah, you've got a little, you can pick out a little bit of grassiness. There's a little bit of a sort of red fruity quality to this one, you know, like figs, kind of black currants, that sort of thing, but it's quite mild. Really, what you'll notice with this beer is that when you first smell it, very, very roasty and toasty, and then as your nose kind of adjusts to it a little bit, you'll start to get some of the kind of red fruity characteristics out of this one. It does become a little bit more blackberry-ish and kind of figgy the further that you go into into the aroma with it, to be honest. So yeah, it really is quite a roasty, toasty smell on this, but it becomes a bit more bready as well the further that you go into the aftertaste too. Or I keep saying the aftertaste, the further you go into the aroma. That's what happens when you've had a beer or two. But yeah, let's have a look at this one and see how we get on. This one is the Aurora Imperial Stout from Brewery here in Gothenburg. Let's go. That's really interesting. When you first take this beer in, it comes across as a hell of a lot sweeter than it does in the aroma. It's almost a little bit sharp as well, which is quite interesting. But what you're going to notice with this, that roasty black quality that I was talking about in the aroma, that's definitely there, but it's a hell of a lot smoother across the palate than you would think from the aroma. So with this beer then, let's just start with the malt base. This is an interesting one. So yeah, straight away this beer, it comes across as a big oily Imperial Stout. And it's very well balanced actually. If we talk about what sub-style of stout this is, it's almost like halfway between a Russian Imperial on the roasty toasty side of things, but it's got a lot of elements of a sweet stout as well. And you know, it's one of these ones that this is a very interesting one to review just because of where it sits on the spectrum. So yeah, middle of your palate, you've got that nice kind of bready base there, and it becomes a little bit drier the further you go into the aftertaste. You're going to notice these roasty black malts coming out a little bit more, and this beer becoming drier as you go further into the aftertaste. But that kind of toasty, bread crusty quality is lingering there on the middle of your palate as well. In the centre of your tongue, you've got a little bit of a kind of brown sugary note. It's quite a sort of big oily, treacly kind of thing. There is a little bit of that there. That's quite mild. You do have to look for that a little bit. This is mainly a roasty, toasty, bready Imperial Stout, but the brown sugar is there, and that's kind of covering the booziness that this beer has, which it didn't say on the board actually, but I would suspect that this beer it's definitely over 10%. It might even be up by sort of 11, 12, something like that, but definitely over 10% this beer. There's no doubt about that. And in fairness, when you take this beer in as well, you're going to notice those brown sugars a little bit more. It's very sweet in the middle of the palate when you take it in. But I do like this. This is a solid beer. In terms of the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you've got a little bit of earthiness there. I do want to say there's a bit of English hop in here. I think there's a mix of English and American hops in this one because the earthiness is quite dark, which would say English hops. But as you come further forward on the side of your palate, you notice there is a little bit of a floral quality in there. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like Summit or maybe a bit of Williamette in here as well. I suspect that Williamette could be giving it some of the fruity characters that it's got, but on the front corners of the palate you'll notice some of the floral aromaticity. Around the front curve of the palate it's a little bit lighter and grassy as well. And as I always say, behind the front curve of the tongue, that's where you'll get the fruity esters from the hops that just roll out a little bit. It's quite sharp when you take it in the beginning. It's a little bit almost, it's almost a little bit like raspberry-like in the beginning. It's got a little bit of that. Yeah, when you take this beer in, it's definitely got a little bit of a kind of red fruity sharpness to it, and then as you go further into the aftertaste, it kind of evolves a little bit more to be like blackberries, black currants, Maybe even, I don't know if quite figgy in this one. I find this beer to be a little bit more sort of blackcurranty and blackberry-ish, to be honest. So to sum it up, malt base, very roasty and toasty. It's kind of black malty, this one. It's not got any of that kind of coffee smoothness or anything, but quite a nice big boozy, toasty, bread crusty, roasty imperial stout. It's more like a Russian imperial generally, but it's got a little bit of sweetness in the beginning, like you would expect from a sweet imperial stout. So yeah, a really interesting beer, this one. But what I would say to Spike Brewery on this is, if you can produce stouts like this, just do it a little bit more often, because this is a really nice example of the beer. Have a go at some black IPAs as well. This would be a really good thing for the brewery to have a go at too. In terms of mouthfeel then, quite a full-bodied beer. Carbonation is very smooth in this one again. I've said that about all three of the beers, so I suspect that's just to do with the fact that these are coming out of the cask. But yeah, very smooth. A little bit of I would say overall this beer, it's quite roasty and it gets drier the further you go into the aftertaste. IBUs, this one has to be like up about 80, maybe even a little bit more. This is quite high IBU, both from the malt base and from the hops in the beer. Nice little bit of fruitiness, a little bit sharp in the beginning, and the malt base is nice and dry, but it's got a little bit of sweetness in the beginning too. So a really interesting imperial stout, this one, the Aurora from Spike Brewery here in Gothenburg. This is a nice beer, and I do hope that we see some black IPAs and some stouts from these guys in the future. So final tasting, I'll give you my final thoughts on the brewery outside, but I have to say all three of the beers I've tried have been pretty damn solid. So catch you soon in a second. Cheers. Alright guys, so just final thoughts then on Spike Brewing here. So a big shout out to Philip and Sarah behind the bar. They were awesome. It was nice to chat to them just about, Scottish beer, the Gothenburg beer scene and stuff like that. They were really nice to chat to. So as I say, big shout out to them. Big shout out to David as well. David took me through the back and spoke to me a little bit. He saw I was filming and spoke to me and stuff like that, and told me quite a little bit about the brewery and things. So at some point in the future, you will see me do like a meet the brewer, meet the owner kind of thing with him. I'll need to arrange that. But he was great to talk to as well. But if you get the chance and you find yourself in Gothenburg on a Saturday, do come and visit Spike Brewery. The beers that I tried were great. It was cool to try some different styles from this brewery as well, because in Systembolaget it really is only the IPAs and pale ales and stuff that you'll get. So to try the sour and the imperial stout was great. Very good quality beers. So I hope that we can see some more different styles from these guys in the future. It'd be really cool to see a black IPA and things like that. But prices are very good. 45 crowns for a little sort of 200 mils, so definitely designed for you to do tastings and stuff like that here, rather than drinking a lot of beer. But that's kind of what you want from a craft brewery. But they're only open on Saturdays at the moment. Hopefully they'll open up on like Fridays and Sundays at some point too. But definitely come and check out Spike Brewery here in the Gamlestaden area of Gothenburg if you get the chance. But I hope you've enjoyed another little out and about video, and I will catch you guys very soon. Slange, skål, cheers.